In this video, we are going to see how to perform logging with rest assured. So logging becomes important part of a software practice. If we have enough logs, then it becomes easier to debug software failures. But if you do not have enough log statements, then it becomes little difficult to debug the failures. Okay. By default, rest assured gives a method called log to perform different level of loggings. Okay, here the levels does not mean like info or one, not such kind of levels. Here the levels means like what we need, like headers, or do we need to print all the logs related with the request and response. Okay, so those kind of levels. So before that, we have to use the given, and then if we have anything to prepare the request, then we have to do the configuration here. But as of our API does not accept any configurations, basically we without any configuration we can go with, because we are using get, so we can directly go with when, and then from here onwards we can start logging. So there are two types of logging. One is request based logging and the other one is response based logging. So in the request based logging is whatever you have configured, if you want to print it as a logs, then you can print them. And in the response based logging, whatever the response coming from the server, you can print those logs into the console. Okay, so this is request based log. So type log, and inside the log, once you use the .log method, then only you will get all the different levels of logging. For example, if you see here, whether you want to print all or body or cookies and different level of logging. So let's go with first all. Okay, this means that whatever the settings that we set, it's going to print. Okay, then let's go with .get, whatever the method you want to perform. So here I'm going to use the get method for the API. Here we have API. So after the getting method, we have to go with then method. Now we have received our response. I mean, like once we send this thing, we will receive a response. So what we need to do, then I want to log. Again, we have to use a log statement, log method basically, and then again I can use all. Okay, so here we have used the all method in two places. One is before sending the request to the server, and one is after sending the request to the server. Okay, so now for differentiating purpose, what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this into two different requests. Okay, so I have copy pasted the same one, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the then log and all logging. Okay, so this is the first request. So here we are going to check whether what it is logging, because here we cannot print any other things, but I want to differentiate between the request logging and the response logging. That's why I am trying to use the S5SO system out println. So here I am going to print after receiving actually. Okay, so here I am going to remove this log and all. So I hope you understood why we are writing in two places. Here it's going to print some value, and here also it's going to print some value. If I put these all things into the same place, it will print as a junk text. I mean, like all the things as combined. So just to differentiate, I am adding one simple system out. So here it will give a line, and then we will be having our response based logging. Okay, now let's run. I'm going to run it as a JUnit launcher. So let's see. So after receiving the request, okay, So we have received our output. So till here, whatever is there, this is based on the request based logging, and whatever you can see this after receiving the request, I could change it to response. Okay, after receiving a response, not request actually it is. So consider after receiving the response, we have this kind of, I mean these logs. Here you will have all the headers and the status. Here you can see the status and the headers like content type, transfer, and coding, and the similar things you can see it here also. But one important thing is here, whatever the body is, here it is none, but it is going to be, if we are going to use something like a put method or post method, we have to provide a body here. Okay, so that kind of body will be printed there. Okay, anyway, we will see one example at the end, but as of now let's understand. Okay, so here in the body of this particular statement, okay, on the response side, it will print every single thing including the response body. Okay, so you may think that where these are coming from, these are coming from a server. Not only from here, if you open this thing in a browser, for example, let me open it in browser. So here we have the same URL. Now Control Shift plus I to open the dev tools. Okay, go to network and now press enter on the URL. Now it will load. Okay, so here this is the place we are interested in. Now click it. So if you see, it will showcase certain details. Okay, so here you can see the request URL. So in the console here you can see that mostly, okay, request URL, request method is get, and request method is get, and status code is 200, but this 200 will come here because this is a response code. Okay, and then remote address, and few details we may not find that remote address, all the stuff, but most of the details we will be able to find it here. Okay, and then if you see in the response tab, you can see the same response, whatever we can see it here, whatever you see it here, the same thing is going to be present here as well. Okay, so all these details will be available to you using the logging. So in the cookies level, if you see any cookies here, the same thing you can see it there also. For example, cookie subscribe, let's see whether we have cookie subscribe. Here we are seeing the cookies, and we see few cookies, but it is not printing complete cookies. We have a different method for printing complete cookies, so let's see the other method. Okay, now all method will provide everything, every single details with respect to response and also with respect to request. Okay, so there is one more method called everything. Okay, everything is also similar to all. Okay, it will also print most of the details. Okay, let me execute, because as I said, all and everything almost same, so there is no need for explanation of everything again. Okay, if you see it, it's almost printing the same details. Here also it prints the same details. Okay, and all and everything can be interchangeably used when you are trying to log anything. Now let's go with another methods. Let's see header. Okay, for example sake, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this get method into a different method so that it will be easier for me to showcase. So I'm going to change it as a create method, I mean create URL. So the body it's going to accept is this one. Okay, I'm going to copy paste this body. So first we have to prepare, after a given we have to prepare the body and all the types. Okay, so here I'm going to go with the double quotes and paste the body. Okay, let me remove this. Okay, also when we are sending body, we might send the content type as well. Okay, so here the content type is enum. Here I'm going to set as JSON. Okay, so the content type is JSON for this body. This is JSON format. I'm sending it, and I'm sending it to a URL called create churcher.txt/sample/api/product/create. I'm going to use a put method rather than get method. So this is going to create a new resource in the server. Okay, yeah. So after this log, we have to put some method. So for example, let's say all method. If you want, again, I'm going with all method, so that you guys will understand like what is the thing it is printing when we are using the get. Okay, now if I run, it will print this body as well as this content type. Okay, now hold on a moment. So here also we need to change it. I'm sorry, here I need to change it. Okay, so the body is going to be the same, whatever I can see it here, right? Because we are trying to pass the same body, but rather than writing as a two different statements, I'm going to combine them as a one. Okay, so I'm going to remove this line. Now I hope you understood, like it will the logging can print with request and response. So let me combine both of them rather than writing two. Now it's a single one. So let me explain this program now again. So in the given, after given, we are building that particular request with the content type and body, and then when we are going to log it, log, and we are going to log all. After that, we are trying to put this particular body into the given API endpoint. Okay, so after that, I'm trying to print the logs. Okay, so now let's run again. Okay, till this one it is request related. Okay, and this is response related. Again, we are getting the same details. Okay, this time we have received the responses product was created. Okay, here this time you can see the body, whatever we have passed here, right? The same thing is going to be printed there. And if you have doubt like I only passed the body, why should I print it into the log? Okay, this is normal question people tend to ask, because I used to ask. So this is because if you are the person is going to execute these particular programs all the time, then there is no need, because you already know it what is your passing. But if somebody else is going to run, because if you have more than one person in the team, then there is a pretty much chance that the other person also going to run the framework. So in such times he might not able to understand what you are passing. That because of that we can log the requests also. And not only in that case, even if you are executing after 6 or 7 months, you might not understand it what's happening. So during that times logging will be helpful. Okay, now we have seen all. Now you can go with headers. Okay, so there is headers. Headers are nothing but the headers. Let me showcase. Here you can see it. So these are the few headers. Okay, so few are request headers and few are response headers. These are response headers. Okay, so this is nothing but it will showcase the content type and what is the status of that particular, or what is the status line and status code, and what content type you are passing. Except body and yeah, mostly except body, it will print most of the headers. Okay, body is not a header. Okay, now let's run again. So here instead of all we have changed to headers. When we are using a all, it was printing the headers as well. Okay, so here we can see the headers. So these are the headers. Okay, that is based on the request, and these are based on the response. Okay, so this is the time we have sent the thing, and what is the cookie that it is setting, and then you have content type and encoding. Okay, so all the details are there. So now after that we have a status, but status will not be applicable for request. It's only applicable for response logging, because request will not have any status. Okay, but response will have a status like 200, 201 based on the what server has done with our request. Okay, now let's run for the status. As I said, few methods are applicable for request and response, but few methods especially applicable for response only. Okay, it says like 201 created. Okay, so a particular resource was created in the server, so that is the status. Okay, now again we have a method called cookies. Okay, so if you have set any cookies in after the body, then you can see those cookies. For example, if I set cookie, for example, I'm going to set a name as, let's say, okay, so I'm just setting some dummy cookie. So when it prints here, it will print the cookie here, but post the after once we complete this request, then what cookie we have is a different cookie. It's not the same cookie. Okay, so let's run. So cookies method will print the cookies. You can print the request cookies and as well as the response cookies. Okay, so here we have a cookie. So this is the request cookie, the first one, and whatever you see here, this is the response cookies. Okay, when we are using that dot all, it was this particular statement was also printing. Okay, so now we have few more methods. We have print only body, which means that whatever body you are passing here, it will be logged using the log.body. At the same time, whatever body is received from the from the server, that particular body will be logged here. Okay, normally it is like a product created here. Okay, so this is the request body and this is a response body. Okay, so here whatever the things we are passing, it is logged, and here this is the response from the server that product was created. Okay, so other than body, we have few more methods. Everything is as I explained before. It is going to be everything. I mean, it's going to print same as the all method. Okay, so here we have a if validation fails. So mostly it is not used along with the request, but it is used with response. Okay, so here again we have a method. Okay, so what method we are trying to pass? Okay, here also we can give the method. Sorry, here we don't have a method, it seems. Here we don't have a method. This is fine. Okay, so here instead of a method, I'm going to print only the body. Okay, so here this method is nothing but what method we are passing here. Okay, is it a put method or create put method or post method or delete method or get method? So that details will be printed here, and here it is just a body. It is going to say something product is created with UI. Okay, the request method is put method because here we are using put. In case if I am using post, the output will be post. Okay, so this is the body here, whatever we are printing. Okay, so there are few other methods which are especially applicable for response. Okay, let's see them. Now I'm going to remove this logging and I'm going to have only the logging at the end. Okay, so we have seen like all, everything, cookies, headers and status. So there are other logging statements which will be used before the login. Okay, so here itself we have to provide the logging. Yeah, same spot also you can provide. So this is nothing but when you are trying to verify some details. Okay, for example, like you have requested something in the server, and if the server results in an error or it returns something but it is not matching with whatever the expectations you have, then if you want to capture them, such kind of things, you can capture them. Okay, so for this purpose, first let's see, there is a method called sorry dot there is a method called IfError. Okay, IfError is the method which will be printed in case if there is an response code more than 400. Okay, so here we were receiving the response code as 201. Okay, but in case if the response code is higher than 400, then IfError will printed, the error statement will be printed. For example, now if I run it, so it's going to give a 200. Okay, so this works only more than 400. Okay, so now let's run it. It's not going to print anything here. Okay, so execution completed. If you see output, nothing is there because it has given the result as 201. Okay, which is less than 400. So IfError works only if the response code is more than 400. So for that purpose, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write something, or you can say like some dummy text, or so something I have written here along with the URL. So basically this is not present in the server. Okay, if I execute it, it will return nothing. It will say 404, and this 404 can be manipulated using the UIs, but what the 404 you have to see is, you have to see it in the console, sorry, in the network tab of it. So here if you see the status as 404, then we can say that 404, that is, this document is not there. Okay, now if I run this code, okay, now it will return 404, and here it is an error because it will be considered as an error if it crosses 400, and it will print the output. Let's see. Okay, it has printed few things. Okay, so it is giving all the error details here, if you can see it. Okay, so it has printed all the details, but when it is 201, okay, it was not printing anything at all. Okay, so this is for 404, and if I run it for 200, this is valid URL, and if I run it, it does not print anything. Okay, so there is nothing. It got executed, but there is nothing. Okay, so there is a few more. Okay, so one of the method is if validation fails. If validation fails, so which means that I have to add validation, like I have to check the status code or status line. Okay, so here I'm going to check the status code. Here I am expecting 201 as the status code. Okay, if it is passed, if this is receiving 201, okay, then it will not print anything. Okay, now let's run and see like whether it prints something, because what we are expecting is it should not print anything. Okay, the test is passed, nothing got printed, but the same time if I give 301, okay, then it will print the details. Okay, you can see that illegal reflective, this is because of the match, it is not matching, and you can see the expected status code is 301 but received 201, and you can see the details got printed, these details. Okay, so whenever you are expecting something, and if it is not happening, then if you have already used if validation fails, then it will print all the details. Okay, so you can say that instead of I want to check if it is not 201, I want to print the details, but not all the details, but I want to print only a certain detail. Like for example, here you can take like status. So how do I do it? If you have that question, there is a method called LogDetail. Okay, so basically this is not a method, this is a overloaded method for this if validation fails, and it accepts a enumerator. Okay, so in this enumerator we have different levels. For example, all, as we were saying, it will print all the statements, and body, it will print only the body. In case if you say headers, it will print only the headers. If you want params, you can, it will print params. So here I'm going to check with the status, because just I want to print this one. Okay, so I'm going to run it again. In case if it is not 301, then I want to print the status. Obviously it is not 301, so it is going to print the status. Okay, if you see it here, you got the status, and also the test is failed because it is 201, and but we are expecting is 301. Okay, so this is one thing. And sometimes what you want to check is, you want to print only, okay, only when if you receive some error. Okay, for example, if there is a method called if status code equal to. Okay, so if the given status code is equal to something, okay, for example here, if it is 201, then you want to print all the details, or you don't want to print it. Okay, so now let's run it. Let's see what it's going to print. Okay, it is printing all the details. Okay, because if it is 201, I want to print it if the status code equal to. In case if I put 301, then nothing will be printed here, because whatever we receive, the status code here is 201. So this time we should not print anything. Okay, so nothing got printed here. Okay, yeah. So now we have seen like how to print all the details, and then if you want to print a body, you can print it using body method, and status using a status method, and error using IfError method. So there are different methods to print different things from the request and the response. Okay, so but sometimes what you might want is, you might want to blacklist a particular particular detail. Okay, so you don't want to print it. For example, we were saying like, okay, let's rewrite it. So here we are expecting 201. In case if it is 201, it was printing all the details, if you remember. But I do not want to print all the details, or if I want to mask some details, then you can blacklist those kind of details. So for that you have to use config method, and you have to use a config method from the rest assured again. Okay, rest assured dot config, and here it is going to accept one more method, which is not rest assured config dot config, again dot, here you have to do log config method, and for the log config method you have to pass a detail. Okay, so it will accept, but as of now I'm going to blacklist. Hold on a moment. Here this log config should come inside the config. So here it should be coming, but it is not viable option, so we have to see rest assured dot not rest assured, it is something else, rest assured config I guess, dot log. Hold on a second, I'm making some mistake, but I'm not able to recognize what it is. Okay, so inside the config I have to give config from the rest assured dot config, and with this method I have to go with log config method, and in the log config method again we have to call the config, which is from the method from the class called log config. Okay, log config dot log config dot log config dot blacklist. You can blacklist any detail you wanted to blacklist. So here if you want to blacklist a header, okay, you can blacklist it. So I want to blacklist only one header, so which is going to be here if you see it. So we have not executed, let's say content type type. I'm not sure whether I have typed correctly. Okay, let's execute and see whether it's printing the status or not. I mean, like whether it's printing the content type or not. Okay, run it. It is running. So here in the output details, if you see it, it has given all the details, but if you see the content type, it is alone blacklisted. Okay, when you don't want to give some details, for example, if you are having some passwords or something you are going to expose, you can blacklist them instead of showcasing it. Okay, so here we have a set cookie, right? If you want to blacklist set cookie, we can set it. So here it is going to accept a number of parameters. Okay, again if you want to pass, we can pass the set cookie. So this one also will be blacklisted hereafter. Okay, it's executing. Here set cookie also blacklisted now. Similarly, you can blacklist most of the details. Okay, so you can blacklist different types of headers and body and different things. Okay, so here you can see blacklist the headers. Fine. Okay, so that is all. Almost we have covered everything with respect to logging, and I guess we can end this video. Okay, so if you have any queries, you can leave a comment. And one more thing I might have missed, or I intentionally missed, there is one more method called, not method actually, there are few methods which are having overloaded methods, which will have a pretty print. Okay, here whatever you see, whenever we are printing the body. Okay, so for example, let's remove this cookie and put that log dot body. For example, let's consider we are using log dot body. Okay, so this is one method that we have seen. It will print the body here, whatever the body we are passing. Okay, so now if I run it, it's going to print me valid. Okay, you can see it is printed neatly as just like in JSON format. Okay, so by default all the methods will try to print the output content in a nicer format, because they already have a variable called, if you see it here, body, there is a variable called should pretty print. Okay, so basically this should pretty print is nothing but whether we want to print in a nicer format or not. It will print the JSON, XML and HTML as in a nicer format. Remaining things it will print just like a text without any indentation. Okay, so should we print it or not? If I set false, I don't want to print it in a prettier format, then I can set the value to false. And if I see the output now, it is a quite different, but it is still looks like a JSON format, but most of the time it doesn't. Okay, so it accepts true and false. So based on that, you have 4 more methods like body, all, and if validation fails. Yeah. Okay, so these methods are there, but most of the time you don't have to pass it, because by default it will be considered as true and every output will be printed in prettier format only. Okay, that's all for this video. We'll see in next video. Thank you.